All right, once again, we've got our guy Harry Nibel over here, All-American golfer and director of soft goods testing inside My Golf Spy. We got Sam Robinson, director of hard good testing and golfer of the year.
At one point in my life.
Yes, and I'm Adam Beach. So today we're going to discuss, first and foremost, the winner from this week at the Memorial. That's Patrick Cantlay. Those that aren't familiar, this was the #1 amateur in the world and a serious contender to become one of the big names in golf. That being said, he got hit with some really unfortunate events, one being the fact that he broke his spine, and he did that on the driving range swinging, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. We've all swung hundreds, if not thousands, upon tens of thousands of swings on the range, and you don't go out there.
You don't ever expect to break your back on the driving range.
No. So not only that, but his best friend and caddy also got killed in a hit-and-run accident, which set him back, both the injury and that, and compounded on each other to where he took a couple years off from the tour and really struggled to get back from the injury, which everyone that's had an injury that's away from their sport that they love can understand can be really hard on you. But I think it seems to have galvanized him in a couple ways. He seems more dedicated, more mature at a younger age, probably because of the situation the experience he's had to deal with. And let's face it, I mean, he was a #1 amateur, and he's super hot right now. He's not winning 3 tournaments in a row, but he's got a T9 at the Masters, T3 at Heritage, T3 at the PGA, and he just won the Memorial. So
big tournament. I
don't know if there's a hotter golfer out there, really, that you don't know that much about.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
He's really, coming out, and we were talking about it a little bit earlier. Is he going to be one of those household names in the industry, like the Thomases and the Spieths and guys like that? And I think if he can secure a major here pretty soon, U.S. Open's coming up, British Open's still, on the docket. If he can take one of those,
I was going to say that story as well, that coming out from starting off as a pro and then breaking his back and his obviously best friend dying. That story, if he comes up and keeps winning, I mean, I don't think there's just as good a story as Tiger's comeback, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, what was also interesting was a few things. One was that it was the lowest final round score ever by a winner at this event, which, when anytime you have the best score, is a pretty big deal. And it was fueled by a 5.14 strokes gained tee to green on Sunday, which was the most of any player in the field. Looking at it as what's in the bag, it is a bag full of titles, meaning driver to ball, all titles. The interesting things that we can take away from that is the fact that he's playing a 917 D2 driver from Titleist from back in 2017 and a 915 F Titleist fairway wood, which was back in 2015.
We weren't even testing 3-woods back then.
Really?
Yeah. Our first 3-wood test included the Titleist 917s.
Yeah, so once again, just goes back to the point of, we've always said it with equipment, it's evolutionary generally, not revolutionary, meaning you very rarely see something that goes to being 10, 15 yards longer than the pack. It's usually 1 yard increments when we look at the overwhelming data. Like when we look at all the data combined and averages, it's about a 1 yard increase per year is what I've seen, over the years. So you're not giving up that much by 3 or 4 year old equipment, especially if it's dialed in for you and you're super confident standing over it, right?
And Titleist has made good 3-woods for years.
Man, I still think the hybrids and the fairway woods, if they're not the most confidence-inducing standing over it, they're first or second for
Absolutely.
me.
I mean, I'm playing an old rocket ball 3-wood that is ancient, but I still hit it well. So
we were hitting that this past week. That thing's legit.
Yeah, that goes for miles.
It does, and it's great.
It is. Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's got a good shaft in it. It's got an older shaft as well.
That rocket balls, I still think, would be longer than most fairway woods now.
Well, I have cranked it down to like 13 degrees, 13.5 degrees, but so it's like a little missile.
I can't hit that damn thing.
Really?
No, I'm not strong. They got a stiff shaft in there. You guys have the.
There you go.
We got a 95X on that.
I was in the gym this morning trying to get this.
All right, so on to kind of what's been going on inside the facility, what's coming up. We just finished game improvement irons, the most wanted testing for that, and the winner was the Mizuno JPX 919 Hot Metal. That was the overall winner, and also best for forgiveness. And a new category that we're putting up this year, not because we necessarily love it, but we try to provide all the data and educate people on what we think they should pay attention to. But we also throw a bone to those people out there that we know want to know what the longest driver is, iron is, whatever. So we have a longest category. That longest winner for this year in the game improvement iron category is the Tommy Armour Atomic, and it was long and strong.
Real long and
we
real
know,
strong.
Right?
And we know you guys like it out there. That they want to know how far the distance goes. They want the longest one.
So it's long, right?
Right.
But that being said, the 7-iron loft is 26.5 degrees, okay? So to put that in perspective to the average of the field in the test, the average was 29.75. The average difference between one iron and the next is generally 4 degrees, give or take a degree. So basically a whole iron stronger than the rest, which gets us to the point. At what point do you reach diminishing returns with this jacked loft? And Tony, we have all discussed this for years now, right? We've seen this trend happening. And at a certain point you go, well, it's not a bad thing if you can make a 5-iron, basically erase the 5 on the bottom of the club and put a 7 on there if you want. I don't give a damn, as long as you can keep the trajectory and the descent angle at a reasonable number to where if you have a bunker in front of the green, you're not hitting low bullets that will never have a chance of stopping, right? So what we were seeing was certain irons were doing a pretty good job, like PXG, XFs, where they were getting that CG real far back, strong loft in it, and still keeping trajectory pretty good.
You're increasing ball speed without sacrificing launch angle.
But spin rates, launch angles are starting to keep trending down, and irons are getting stronger every year.
Yeah, I don't know when it's going to end.
I mean,
So, Tony, when does this end? Seriously, I want to ask you a question. We're at 26.5 degrees for a 7-iron. What is the bottom? Like, where do you think the bottom is for a 7-iron?
Where, I mean, 1. I mean, just until we
1
get
degree.
until we've run out. I mean, that's the theoretical limit, and somebody will tell a brilliant low back dynamic loft story that promises higher trajectory. But look, I mean, when we look at the numbers, and hell, our readers comment on this stuff all the time, right? And they're saying, our tests get called bullshit because somebody with a general idea of kind of who knows what they're looking at will look at our data and go, the launch angle's too low, the spin rate's too low, and the really educated ones will take it the next step farther and go, these descent angles are garbage. But unfortunately, the next step is there's something wrong with your testing. And what I say is, no, I agree. These launch angles are low, and these spin rates are low, and these descent angles are low. And while we're at it, these peak trajectories are low. And guess what? These are how real golfers hit these irons that have supposedly been designed for them, because you can throw loft out of the equation when you go and you work with a reputable fitter. If you go to, somebody
no one does that, guys. Tony. I don't know what you're talking about.
Go to, look, where you go to. I mean, Sam and I have both spent some time at Oceanside with Titleist, and I worked directly with Glenn. Sam observed a fitting, and I mean, how many times, Sam, did you hear Glenn say descent angle? Right? I mean, over
Everything.
and over again, and when you go, and especially if you're doing sort of your unattended self-fitting at a big box store, right, where you're just loading up on the launch monitor, you're going, hey, that one was long and that one was straight. You're not giving any real regard to, all right, what happens if that hits the green and doesn't roll
out of 100
if there's an obstacle in front of the green, right?
But here's the problem. It's not our problem. It's the golfer's problem, because out of 100 people, let's just go around the room and go, you get 100 people to go into a typical store and go, hey, I want to be fit for irons. What is the number one thing they give a shit about when they look on that screen?
I want to hit it longer.
They only remember the iron that went the farthest.
Yes, they want to hit it.
Time.
Yes.
And look, even if they're sort of conscious and cognizant of things like descent angle and dispersion area, and they're looking at the small numbers and the small circles, right? At some point, the iron is going to be long enough, right, where you're like, yeah, but it's
really
8 yards longer.
That percentage,
longer, right?
that percentage, though, Tony, is as close to 0.0 people in the world as I can think of, and
who are going to overlook that distance, an extreme distance difference.
So look, the golf club companies are going, hey, we're going to keep forgiving what you want, right, until you push back, and there's not been enough pushback. There should be, And it should happen now. Like, stop paying attention to how far an iron goes. All they are doing is taking the number on the bottom and erasing it and embossing a different number on it.
Well,
that's it.
Look, almost every golf company, right, says, go see a fitter. Go see a qualified fitter, right? And we say go see a qualified fitter. And just like we know, the golf companies know too, the majority of guys are still not going to go see a qualified fitter. And so, look, when you're a guy who's just going to go, or when you're a customer, when you know, right, when you are certain that a large percentage of your customer base is just a guy who's going to go whack balls in a simulator bay, or maybe not even with a launch monitor, is just going to buy the one he perceives to be going the farthest 1 or 2 times, you got to feed that beast, right? Because if you don't do it, even if you're going to kind of take that high road and go, no, we're not going to jack lofts, your competitors are going to jack lofts.
All right, so go around. What do you think, Sam, could fix this problem where golfers stop looking at the launch monitor battles and only looking at distance? Because every year we test, the longest ones for irons are typically really bad for strokes gained scoring.
Yeah,
right?
that's kind of what I was going to touch on, was that, yes, the Tommy Armour was by far on all 3 irons tested the longest. It sucks because it feels so good. I like the iron a lot.
It feels great. No, I'm not going to lie. It feels great.
It does. It has a titanium face, and they brazed it on, so it's got a really good feel.
The thing feels amazing.
It feels like a damn driver coming off the face. And it's nice when I've been sitting at the desk and I'm tight and I go and swing that a few times and I hit it 185 yards. I'm like, damn, that's amazing.
But even you, right, that's what I'm saying. So how do we get golfers off that? Go. Nothing.
I wish I knew the answer. I wish I knew.
Good luck.
Good luck, right?
I mean, I don't know.
No
that's
chance.
even something. That's
really
even
don't
a
know.
problem that we struggle with in the office, is getting the testers to understand. Like, okay, great, we have to move your 7-iron distance back so you can test and hit the Tommy Armour today.
So,
but that's not the point.
So if what Tony said is correct, good luck. Then, and you're a golf club company that owns Callaway or TaylorMade or Titles, why wouldn't you feed that beast, right?
Well, you're making money off it. They didn't care if you hold the green or not.
Again, corporate mentality. They're making money off of it.
And if you're the company that goes, you know what, I'm going to do it right. I'm going to do it the right way. And then you're losing every launch monitor battle, no one's going to give a shit about your clubs.
But I mean, what
happened? It's hard to change the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, look at Mizuno, right? So Mizuno kind of fought this for the longest time, right? And again, they have what they call traditional lofts, and traditional lofts definitely aren't as traditional as they used to be. But some of that is real, right? Design has changed. We have pushed CGs farther back, lower. We are launching higher loft for loft than we used to. But Mizuno also became really aware of the fact that they were getting their asses kicked in a hitting bay because their irons weren't jacked to the degree that other companies were. And even with an iron, it's still a distance battle in a hitting bay in far too many circumstances, for sure. And so now even Mizuno started offering modern lofts, which
here's what
a really nice way of saying jacked.
I mean, there is pros out there that still think 6-iron, I want my spin rate to be within that 6,000 range. There's still pros out there that do that.
Dude,
but
pros are 0.0.
But everyone still buys of what pros use on
Here's
tour.
how I think it could get solved. I think if the launch monitor companies put strokes gain value scores into the launch monitors, and you went in for iron fittings, and you got a strokes gain value score at the end versus just distance and whatever else you got, I think the conversation could start to trend towards the way it should be. What do you think?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. You would still see guys who see better strokes gain value with distance irons, right? Those guys are still going to exist. And you're going to see guys who see better strokes gain value with small compact irons. Those guys will still exist, but the majority is going to be guys who see their best values from, I guess, I say traditional lofts, but sort of the modern loft of 5 and 10 years ago versus where we are now, where, hey, controllable ball flight, right? That's what really works. That's what you want into a green. Think about it, right? If I have a green at McGregor that is, I want to say maybe 20 paces wide, from front to back. And if you're off the back, you're in a literal hill of shit, just thigh-high weeds. Nobody gets up and down. I've been playing there for 10 years. I think I've seen 2 people get up and down from there in 10 years. And if you go into that with a strong lofted iron, knowing that your only chance is to land it just a bit short and roll to the back. Man, that you can't play golf like that.
Well, that's part of the solution too. I think if Foresight TrackMans and whatever started having strokes gain value for one, but the iron fitting process wasn't just hit. Yeah. There was a bunker in the front, and you had to actually get it over and have stopping power to get a tighter circle closer to that pin. That becomes part of the other part of the solution, because it's not just, okay, let's give a strokes gain value. Part of the strokes gain value is scoring better scores. And to do that, you actually do it on golf course related look, feel, not just driving range,
So when I fit guys, I narrow it down, right? And my process involves getting guys down to the head that they're pretty sure they like, and 2, maybe 3 shaft choices, right? We've whittled it down. And then once we get to that point, I go find a projection of a golf hole that has a little bit of trouble in the front, maybe a pond on the right, bunkering, right? So that, even if it's not actual real golf on the golf course, you do start to understand that these misses aren't just, oh, hey, I was 6 yards more offline. Well, you were 6 yards more offline, but you were in a pond.
Or golf's not played stand over ball, whack ball. Golf is played like stand over ball. Look at what you have to deal with, with conditions and greens and grass and all that stuff, and you got to make exactly
actual freaking consequences.
That's golf.
Yeah.
And more people that do fittings across the country should figure out a way to do strokes gained in there, and also do consequence-based fittings,
and also educating the guy that's getting fit, like Tony was saying, we were at Oceanside, I'm watching this master fitter talk this. He's like an 11-year-old phenom, and the kid did not want to get rid of his 5-iron. He was like, dude, your descent angles are too low. You have to trust me. I'm a professional. He was like, okay, fine. Put him in a hybrid. He was hitting great shots. He was hitting 150-yard, 160-yard 5-irons with a descent angle of 45 degrees. And he's like, there you go. You're going to start hitting par 5s and 2, and you're going to have a lot more fun playing golf.
But the majority of people have access to a guy that gets paid $10 an hour that might have been trained for 2 weeks, if that, with golf equipment and fitting.
Yeah.
That's
that is the thing, right? We say fitting, like go and get fitted is the answer, but the reality is there are tremendous discrepancies and differences between, like you said, there are, guys who are part-timers at Dick's who may or may not be fully trained. They may be really good, they may not. And then you have the level of something that you would get if you go to Oceanside and work with Titleist directly, or Callaway at the Ely Callaway Performance Center, or even like Cool Clubs for sure, right? That level of service, that level of knowledge and expertise, it's a tremendous chasm between sort of starter fitting and sort of absolute premium best of the best. So
well, it's one of the features that I love about True Golf Fit, because when people go, well, what about this, what about that, and I'm going to think about it, they're like, can it fit as good as a human? I go, let's say you went to 10 different people, 10 different golf shops that did fittings, and you went for a driver fitting or an iron fitting. How many different recommendations do you think you're going to get out of 10 different stores? 6 different irons, probably.
No, right. Everybody. So every fitter, or most, right, have some kind of bias, right? They've had, let's say, a guy may have had tremendously good luck fitting guys into Nippon shafts. So you have the bias. You don't know big box, right? There's still some spiffing that goes on, right? He may be motivated by his commission check to fit you into one brand over another, right? There are a lot of things in play here, and that all has an impact on the final recommendation. So yeah, I think
not
if you
just
go
bias.
to 10 guys, you're not going to get 10.
It's not just bias, Tony.
Answer.
People have bias, but then you got to understand that a lot of people only have access to maybe 3 different types of irons, like KZG and Ping, and then you've got, hey, golfers get tired. They can't hit 20 different styles of irons, so every fitting is, like you said, we tell you to go get fit, but unfortunately for golfers, getting fit means a lot of different things depending on where you live in the country and the access you have, So back to game improvement irons, back to the winners, the Mizuno JPX 919 Hot Metal. These are what we think you should try on your demo list. Yes, we do think you should try the Tommy Armour Atomic if you want distance. And 2 other irons that were interesting that we think did really well in our test were the Cobra F9 Speedback and the PXG 0311 XF. So
I think we probably should throw in the TaylorMade M3 as well. That one was kind of surprising
M5.
for me, really. Yeah. Was it? It was. Yeah. Excuse me. M5. Sorry, yeah.
It was
M5
surprisingly
also-
consistent across all three iron systems.
Yeah,
It did
no,
really
I mean,
well. It was
excellent.
long
Just right there in the conversation for sure.
yeah.
All right,
And
so demo list, add the M5.
yes, the speed back was really good. I mean, it was extremely accurate in the short iron. I think it ranked up near the first in the
Which
short
one,
iron.
Cobra?
The Cobra F9
Is that the
speed
regular
back.
length or one length?
That's the variable length.
So yeah,
And
just be
then
aware there's two different ones out there.
The long iron and the mid iron did really well for distance, so it was competitive with the distance. And then the PXG 0311XF does exactly what it's designed to do, and it's supposed to be. The XF stands for extremely forgiving. It was
Extreme
top 5 in ball
forgiveness.
speed consistency, top 5 in carry yard consistency, and top 5 in total yards. So it's just a
And
damn good
that's-
iron. That's
And that's one, as Sam mentioned, when you look at the numbers on that, especially on an individual basis, which we like to do rather than just the big group averages that we publish for the masses. But that one is as close to living up to the billing of, it is stronger lofted, but it launches high. And again, right, if you look at purely the spin numbers, you're going to say, oh, it doesn't spin enough. But again, descent angle and peak height, all of that play a role. So it launches higher than most, descent angle steeper, and that makes up for some of the spin that goes away with the
Yes.
strong
So
loft. So I
once
just
again, if you're out
really
there-
just
If you're out there going to get fit for irons, add those to the list. The Mizunos, the Tommy Armour, the PXG, the Cobra, and the M5 from TaylorMade.
TaylorMade M5.
Those were our top 5. And that takes us to the final segment today. And this is going to be Harry's. So we just finished testing push carts.
Why is it that in America there is no push carts to be seen? In 95% of Europe, people in Europe either walk or use a push cart.
So the people that talk with rocks in their mouths use these 95% of the time.
My club
Exactly.
doesn't allow them, so that's my excuse.
really.
This is what I've
Yeah,
heard.
no,
See,
it's
this
kinda
is
weird.
this is one of the debates that why is clubs not allowing push carts? Is there a persona on that?
I talked to people in the industry today about that. So, first of all, my opinion of why we don't use them, unfortunately, is because I think Americans think they look stupid using them. They look, corny.
Right.
Well,
which-
I mean, some view them as a crutch, right? A real man or a real woman would
Yeah, it's
carry
an ego
his or
thing.
her bag.
Yeah, I think Sam's
You-
right.
A
I think-
real jackass would put unnecessary load on his back. For like that's
Yeah,
The thing is,
that's
I
literally what a mule is for.
I grew up.
that's a very good point. So
Why
literally,
turn yourself into a donkey?
I think Sam's right. I think ego's part of it, but I was talking to people in the industry today, and they were like, "Did you know that a lot of courses don't allow it?" And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Well, they're mostly country clubs, and they think it makes us look like we're a municipal course, meaning like it looks cheap." And I was shocked by that.
Yeah.
And then
and
Sam
also,
said
I mean,
his
my-
course doesn't let him.
Well, my club doesn't allow them because the owner says they're unsightly. If he allowed push carts, they'd be the whole course would be ridden with them. He's got a point because most of the guys at the club walk. I've got a group on Saturdays.
Well,
where
they have no
walk.
choice.
But then he's also got a lot of money in Harry's club, and I think he's on the board or something. And everybody has push carts there. Everybody uses them. There's no
Well,
problem
so
there.
here's the thing: is there are
Well, first,
courses
Sam
in
just
America
also-
that are just resort courses, and it's like a 6-mile course if you decided to walk it, and then you factor in the heat. I can see why you have carts like what we call buggies, and you use those because they're not walking courses. You're going to take 5 or 6 hours to go play if you walk it, plus
Okay.
you're going to get tired. In England and in Europe, they are more walkable courses where you don't need a buggy as such, and you can just have a nice, pleasant walk around there.
Do you know how many times? I mean, my course I walk every weekend. Do you know how many times I'm walking down the 7th fairway? I'm like, damn, I wish I had a push cart right now.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Like, just simple question: doesn't a push cart make it easier to carry a bag?
Yeah, we got plenty of testers who are part of an afternoon group, and everybody pushes.
Did you go to school like with all your books stacked in your arms and carrying them around school like this, or did you put them in
No,
something?
and
that
my
made
dad's
it
a
easier?
chiropractor and made me have a rolling backpack.
You had... So Sam had a push cart.
That explains so much. That explains so much.
Wow,
Sam had a push cart in school.
I did.
So like I want to just jump in here and tell you, like, my experience is completely different. Now I'm up here in the Northeast, so maybe there's a demographic thing at play, but again, my course, the overwhelming majority of people walk. The overwhelming majority of those who walk use push carts, and the guys who don't, who neither walk with the bag on their back or use a push cart, the riders, the majority of those guys do it for some sort of legitimate, almost like medical reason. Either they're older, or I mean, one of the guys who takes a cart only has one leg, so that's a legitimate reason not to push a cart. But I mean, I don't want to say it's frowned upon, because it's not like we're out there making fun of the guys in carts, but the majority of the membership, we have a majority walking, and in fact a majority pushing membership. Now,
I mean, at this point, why would you carry a bag over using a push cart? I mean, it makes it easier. You conserve energy, and if you conserve energy, I would think theoretically you would shoot better scores overall. I mean, why are people
you're
not using these?
You're seeing it. The NCAA's, the finals that just happened. There was a team out there that just used a push cart.
Lay into those guys,
and guess what? They ended up being.
But guys on Twitter, guys on Twitter lay into people for anything. I mean,
this is true.
The only thing that I could see,
Twitter's a shit show, man.
The only thing that I can see would be better about carrying than pushing a cart is that if you have, it depends on the kind of course you're playing, but sometimes carrying is a little bit more accessible to where if you need to go, if you have a lot of hills, like I just played in a tournament last weekend, and it would honestly be kind of difficult to push a cart. You would pretty much have to keep
electric one.
Well, not push it, but just like get it to places. Like all of these greens, they had these tiny little bridges you had to walk across. So I mean, yes, it would be nice to just.
That would be the outlier, wouldn't you?
That's what I'm saying. That's the only reason. It's a very small. It's kind of.
Well, you do. I mean, you do have a lot of courses in this country. I mean, even one right down the road from me that not technically a resort course, but was built with sort of that resort mindset. And I think Harry mentioned it, where some of the holes are not exactly close together. And if you're it's a 3-minute drive, and if you got to walk it, it's 10 minutes between holes on foot. And I mean, if you're dealing with a sport that already has a pace of play, it was sort of the last thing that was considered, or something that was given no consideration was, is this course able to be walked? And a lot of times the answer is no. And not for anything. Right? There are money.
Oh,
there is money.
Well,
our college coach wouldn't have allowed us to bring a push cart.
And I came from obviously England, and I used one since I was 12, and I got to a point where I was pretty happy with my game, and I went to carry, and I shot worse scores because I was getting tired, and obviously in Europe it's a bit more hilly, and I was walking up a hill and I was tired carrying. But having a push cart, you're saving a little bit of energy so you can focus mentally down the stretch.
Yeah, it's crazy. The rationale for why people make certain decisions, right? But for whatever reason, Americans don't want to use push carts. But we're going to start.
And keep in mind too, for golf courses, driving carts is a revenue stream, right? And so, I mean, like I think around me, I would guess it's a minimum 2 people, right? If you're 2 guys in a cart, it's a minimum 15 each. I think it's up now. Most places it's up to 18. So, you can rent a cart for $35 plus for 4 hours. You can make some money doing that. So there could be, and I'm not saying this is a universal thing, but in certain circumstances, I think it is a decision has been made that it's in the best financial interest of the golf course to sort of encourage people to ride. And send me one of those Elway ATVs, and I'm riding every day.
All right, but here's my devil's advocate to that, Tony, and that is, if the person doesn't pay for the cart and walks, why decide not to use one of these?
Yeah, no rational reason I can think of. And in fact, if you look, like Hazeltine is a great example, right? So, well-known course, certainly prestigious. They allow push carts, and in fact, the members are, from what I've read, encouraged to actually push them on the greens, because what they found was if you sort of just funnel people a certain way, you have excessive wear and tear on a narrow area. Where if you just say, hey, exit like you would on foot, right? Because nobody thinks twice if you have your bag on your back and you walk across the green. You're actually distributing that weight better with a push cart anyway. So I mean, there's an encouragement there in some places, and the fact that Sam's saying where you guys are, it looks stupid or whatever, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Like, just to sum up, I mean,
who are you trying to oppress out there anyway? Like, who are you trying to? Is there a Tinder date out there? Like,
I don't know. Maybe. Possibly.
Well, I mean,
swipe right on push carts.
What's that?
Swipe right on push carts.
Everyone needs to do that.
All right. So that being said, we're obviously saying they're important, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So which one should people be looking at at least trying? What brands, what models?
Bag Boy has a good array of models that are very, very good. Big Max is obviously a huge leader in Europe, and they have various amount of models to offer you guys. Click Gear is always very, very good in USA. I mean, there's models out there that are getting better and better every year.
What's that, Tony?
So it's again, I have a unique situation, right? My home course drains really well. You can dump a ton of rain on it and still play it, but it is super sandy. And what I found using anything but a Click Gear is they just don't hold up when the dirt or the sand kind of gets into the in-between spots. The Click Gear, and even those, I don't get the life out of a cart that somebody else probably would, but I can get 3 years plus out of a Click Gear. Anything else, I've tried a couple other brands. It's a season, and then there's just too much sand everywhere.
Yeah, that is a good point. It depends on where you play in the conditions, but the Bag Boy won our testing. It was between that and the Click Gear, I think. And the Click
Tri-Swivel is awesome. It just doesn't, the durability, in my opinion, having used both, it's certainly, and again, the conditions in which I play doesn't
especially,
hold
I was going to say, especially where you're heading on the course.
I mean, I play a course right now, and I use the Tri-Swivel. I use the Bag Boy Tri-Swivel, and we have a lot of sand. We have a lot of sand.
If you didn't hear what Sam said, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I got to go back to that. Follow Tony. Are your Arcos diaries somewhere people can follow?
No, I mean just on Twitter back when I used that shithole.
Dude, we should have. There should be Arcos diaries. Like
no,
that
yeah,
would be
no,
funny if you could go back and follow Tony.
I have new sensors. I've got just about made my club decisions for the year. I'm wishy-washy on a couple things because I'm insane. But I will have the Arcos sensors back on them, and I'm sure the maps will have some clever stories to tell. Although I hope with the drivers I pick out this year, I find myself in a few less interesting spots over the course of the season.
Just take a picture of your push cart after the round every time, and we'll know where you've been.
His push cart gets ticks.
Well, I played out of volcano.
Yeah, so anyway, Bag Boy, Click Gear, Big Max. So Click Gear, if you're an accessory person, dude, you
wide
can
array.
Put anything on your
Dave
Click
wrote
Gear.
an article about it, what 4 or 5 years ago. It's like 35 different accessories he wrote about for Click Gear carts.
Yeah, so anything else on the push carts for anybody? Pushcart Mafia is
Throw
trending.
ego out the window.
Yeah, throw ego out the window. I mean, if Europe people grew up with push carts, and we are beating you in the Ryder Cup every year, so they might have something to do with it. I'm just gonna throw that one out there.
That's early, man.
It's early.
Ryder Cup's not even until next year.
And
imagine what he might have to say when the marbles come out of his mouth. Jesus.
As Tony said it, say it one more time. I think you said it best. When it comes to push carts,
don't be a donkey.
Bingo. And that's the end of No Putts Given today. Thank you all for listening. And until next week, put your comments, whatever you want below. We'll read some of them probably. Some of them, not so much. Might delete them. If you've got something you want us to discuss next week, we might ban you too. Put it down in the comments section, and we'd love to hear what you think. So until next week, talk to you then.